Join me as we delve into the heart of one of the most pivotal moments in modern history of how a nation stood atop its citizens and their freedoms. In the 1980s, China was undergoing a seismic transformation. The ruling Communist Party, under the leadership of Deng Xiaoping, initiated sweeping reforms aimed at modernizing the economy and improving living standards. These changes allowed for the emergence of private companies and foreign investment, marking a significant departure from the state-controlled economy of the past. Deng Xiaoping's vision was clear: to stimulate economic growth and elevate the quality of life for Chinese citizens. However, with this newfound economic freedom came challenges. Corruption became rampant, threatening to undermine the integrity of the reform process. Moreover, the push for economic liberalization sparked aspirations for greater political openness among the populace. Amidst these changing tides, the Communist Party found itself at a crossroads. On one hand, there were factions advocating for swift and comprehensive reforms to propel China into the modern era. On the other hand, hardline conservatives sought to maintain strict state control, wary of the potential destabilizing effects of rapid change. In the mid-1980s, the simmering discontent boiled over into widespread protests, spearheaded by students demanding political reform and greater freedoms. Among the demonstrators were individuals who had been exposed to foreign ideas and lifestyles during their time abroad, fueling their desire for change and progress. Thus, the stage was set for one of the most defining moments in modern Chinese history, the Tiananmen Square Protests of 1989. Hu Yaobang's death served as a catalyst for discontent, as protesters mourned the loss of a visionary leader who had championed progressive reforms within the Communist Party. His ousting from a top party position 2 years prior by political opponents only fueled the flames of dissent. Tens of thousands gathered to pay their respects at Hu's funeral in April, using the occasion to voice their demands for greater freedom of speech and reduced censorship. The atmosphere was charged with emotion as mourners turned their grief into calls for political reform. In the weeks that followed, Tiananmen Square became the epicenter of the burgeoning pro-democracy movement, attracting crowds numbering in the hundreds of thousands. The square, a symbol of China's political and cultural heritage, transformed into a vibrant hub of dissent and defiance. As the protests continued to grow in scale and momentum, the world watched with bated breath, witnessing a pivotal moment in China's history unfold before their eyes. Join us as we delve deeper into the events that unfolded in Tiananmen Square, exploring the courage and determination of those who dared to challenge the status quo in pursuit of a brighter future. In the early stages of the protests, the Chinese government adopted a cautious approach, refraining from direct confrontation with the demonstrators. However, behind the scenes, party officials were embroiled in a fierce debate over how to address the growing unrest. Divergent opinions emerged within the party ranks, with some advocating for concessions and dialogue with the protesters, while others pushed for a more aggressive crackdown to quell the dissent. In a pivotal moment, the hardliners within the party prevailed, leading to the declaration of martial law in Beijing in the final weeks of May. The decision marked a turning point in the government's response to the protests, signaling a shift towards a more authoritarian stance. On the fateful night of June 3rd to 4th, the Chinese military launched a brutal crackdown on the demonstrators gathered in Tiananmen Square. Troops opened fire on unarmed civilians, resorting to violence and mass arrests in a bid to regain control of the area. On June 5th, Amidst the chaos and violence engulfing Tiananmen Square, a lone figure emerged to confront the might of the Chinese military, a man whose act of defiance would resonate across the globe. This is one of the most iconic images of the incident, and one that anyone from that era is familiar with. Clad in ordinary attire and clutching nothing but 2 shopping bags, the man stood resolute in the face of overwhelming force, a symbol of courage and defiance in the face of tyranny. His identity remains shrouded in mystery, his fate unknown to this day. Yet, his fleeting moment of bravery has etched itself into the annals of history, immortalized as the defining image of the Tiananmen Square protests. The true extent of the tragedy that unfolded in Tiananmen Square may never be fully known. Conflicting reports and official censorship have shrouded the events of June 1989 in uncertainty and controversy. At the end of the month, the Chinese government acknowledged the loss of life, stating that approximately 200 civilians and several dozen security personnel had died during the crackdown. However, independent estimates tell a different story. Alternative accounts suggest that the death toll could range from hundreds to thousands of individuals, reflecting the scale of the violence and the government's efforts to suppress information about the tragedy. In 2017, newly released documents from the UK government shed further light on the extent of the bloodshed. A diplomatic cable from then British ambassador to China, Sir Alan Donald, indicated that the death toll could be as high as 10,000, an alarming revelation that sparked renewed scrutiny and debate. The events of June 4, 1989, remain shrouded in secrecy and censorship within China. While the world is aware of the crackdown on protesters in Tiananmen Square, the true extent of the tragedy is still unknown to many within the country. Despite efforts to erase the memory of Tiananmen, some young Chinese are discovering the truth about the massacre. Crystal Xu, a journalism student in Hong Kong, learned about the events through the city's pro-democracy movement.
I wish the issue could be openly debated back home. On the 13th anniversary, I'm braving censorship to educate my friends.
Bob Zhang, a research assistant in Hong Kong, stumbled upon a documentary about Tiananmen during his university days, prompting him to question official narratives.
Remembering Tiananmen is about preventing history from being forgotten.
Yaqiu Wang, a China researcher for Human Rights Watch, recalls the shock of discovering the truth while surfing the internet in her hometown.
Learning about June 4th changed my perspective on the Chinese government's suppression of dissent.
Sun, a student in Shanghai, reflects on the impact of discovering the truth and commemorates the anniversary every year.
June 4th has shaped who I am today.
As China continues to censor discussions about Tiananmen, these stories remind us of the importance of remembering the past and seeking justice for those who were silenced. Almost 35 years have passed since that fateful day in June 1989, but the memory of Tiananmen Square endures as a beacon of hope and defiance against oppression. As we reflect on the events of the past, let us honor the courage and sacrifice of those who stood up for freedom and democracy, and let their legacy inspire us to continue the fight for justice and equality in our own time. This has been our journey through Tiananmen Square, a testament to the power of the human spirit to overcome adversity and strive for a better world. Remember, the path to understanding is a journey, not a destination. Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep exploring the mysteries of our world. If you enjoyed this exploration, like, share, and subscribe.